Hi, we're here with Jack Hauser, candidate for the VCA Board of Directors. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me begin by first reading a short statement about how the questions were compiled. The VCA would like to thank those residents who submitted candidate questions. The Elections Committee compiled the questions into 5 general questions, which are an aggregate of the questions submitted. In addition, there were some questions regarding the operation of the Verandah Club, which, as you know, were omitted because the club is privately owned and operated as a private amenity and not part of the operations of the VCA. Okay, Jack, first question. What do you perceive as the biggest priority and challenge for the VCA Board of Directors?
Well, I think the biggest priority for at least the homeowners associations that I've been involved with in the past has always been sort of the financial obligations of the association. And so I would say that's probably the biggest challenge going forward, is making sure that the association is financially viable, has the resources available to carry out the functions that the association members expect from it, and yet not see a case where dues are escalating every single year. So that would be my focus, and the background that I bring to the organization is in the financial arena.
Second question is, what skills, attributes, ideas do you have to address these priorities and challenges? Maybe here you could be a little more specific.
Okay, so as I indicated, that my experience in the past has been in the financial area. You know, I started my career as a CPA and worked for a company called Ernst & Young for about 8 years. But since leaving there, I've worked for big companies, and the last couple were smaller companies. And the focus on making sure that the company had the resources available to execute on its mission was critical. And we had to, in many cases, really, really watch where our spending was going. I think some people, I wear it as a badge of honor, but some of the people that I worked with would say, "Gee, Jack, you're cheap." And if you've ever worked in an early stage company, and when I say early stage, I was employee 10 in one company. I was employee 11 at the next. But if you're working with companies that are at that stage of development, you really need to spend the money like it's your own. You need to be careful with everything that you're spending money on, and make sure that that where you spend your money is really going to bring a return to the organization in the long run. And I think while that's particularly applicable in the business world, I think I've seen it applicable in the nonprofits that I've worked with, and I think it's applicable with an organization like the VCA, where we're taking money from homeowners, and we need to make sure that we're spending it wisely.
What, in your opinion, is the most significant unresolved issue for the board to address, and what do you advise should be done?
I'm not sure I know what the most significant unresolved issue is. It seems like, at least to date, from what I can tell, being a neighborhood rep, the board has done a pretty good job of handling the issues that have arisen. And what I'd want to make sure is that we are continually in a position to be able to do that. I think, like most organizations, the biggest issue is communication, making sure that there's good, clear communication between the board and the homeowners. I know that there have been some cases where some of the homeowners felt that they weren't being communicated with, as clearly as they'd like to be. Particularly, I think most recently um, on the issue of giving the board the right to engage legal counsel to go after Coulter. There were people, I think, that didn't understand that the board couldn't explain or would only compromise their positions going forward if they explained every single issue that that the board had that they were going to try to deal with the previous developer.
What ideas do you have for the board of directors to improve the financial status? Is here.
So I'm not as familiar with the financials of the board or the HOA as I'd like to be. And so one of the things that I'd say is making sure that everybody in the homeowners association is aware of the financial status of the organization, so that when they see their dues, they understand that the money is being well spent, and that they are confident that the board is looking out for their best interests.
And finally, Jack, if you could just share with us anything you would like anybody who is viewing this to know about you and why you're running.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, I guess what I would say is a little bit of my background. I mentioned that I worked for Ernst & Young for about 8 years. After that, I went to work at a very large bank, U.S. Bank, for about 10 years, but then transitioned to early stage businesses and found that they were, quite frankly, a lot more fun. One of the companies that I was a CFO and head of HR for, I believe I mentioned that I was employee 10. We grew it to about 400 employees before selling it to a PE fund for $550 million. It was a great experience. I learned a lot by doing it. But one of the things that I learned the most after working for a couple of very big companies was that working for a smaller organization, you really have to focus on communication and making sure that you're very careful about your spending. One of the things that we would spend money in our companies if it was going to drive revenue, but new office space or perks for the executives, those did not exist. I've also spent I've spent time as a board member of a number of nonprofits, so I think I have a good feel for the difference between a for-profit organization and how those are run, and a nonprofit organization. But I would say that from a financial perspective, even in nonprofits, they need to be careful about managing their expenses so that they achieve the outcomes that the nonprofit is focused on. I've only been in Verandah for about a year now, and I've been the neighborhood rep during the time that I've been here. I just think it's important that everyone in the community contribute to the organization in some manner. There's all kinds of ways to contribute. I figured that with my financial background, I would be a good addition to the board from a financial and fiduciary perspective.
And now finally, are you now or have you ever been in a non-compliance situation with any HOA?
No, I've never. I think, well, so I'm an accountant, and my kids would tell you, Dad, you're a rule follower, and I'm okay with that. So I have never been in a non-compliant situation.
Great. Thank you, Jack. That concludes our interview.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.